Himalayas, often called the water towers of South Asia, are now facing a silent but dangerous shift. Snowfall that once arrived like clockwork in winter months is now delayed, erratic, and in many regions missing altogether. While heavy snowfall in pockets of Uttarakhand may create an illusion of recovery, experts warn that this does not undo a season of snow deficit. What we are witnessing is not bad weather, but changing climate, rewriting mountains' natural rhythm. Across the Himalayan belt, winter snowfall is arriving late, lasting shorter than before. In fact, December, traditionally the peak of snowfall month, has increasingly turned dry, with weak and brief snow spells showing up only in late January or February. This delay disrupts the natural storage of water in form of snow, pushing the meltdown cycle closer to summer. And the result is reduced spring runoff, higher dependence on groundwater, and growing anxiety among farmers as well as hydropower planners. Meteorologists point to changing behavior of major weather systems as the primary driver. Western disturbances, responsible for most winter snow in Himalayas, are becoming less frequent and more erratic. At the same time, monsoon systems are lingering longer, altering seasonal transitions. Rising temperatures are also converting snowfall into rainfall at higher altitudes, fundamentally changing how precipitation is received and stored in the mountains. Climate change is amplifying every vulnerability in the Himalayan ecosystem. Reduced snowfall exposes glaciers earlier in the season, accelerating meltdown and extending the melting period. Snow, which acts as a natural reflector and insulator, is fast disappearing, allowing glaciers to absorb more heat. The Himalayas are warming nearly twice as fast as the global average, making snow loss one of the clearest and most dangerous indicators of climate distress. And when the Himalayas lose their snow, it is not just the mountains that suffer, but millions downstream also pay the price. Rivers shrink, crops fail, power generators falter, and disasters become more frequent. So everything is a cycle and it's all interconnected. And this is no longer a future warning, it's a present day reality unfolding in slow motion right in front of our eyes. The vanishing snow of the Himalayas is a reminder that climate change is no longer knocking at the door, it is already inside. And yet, the world leaders are oblivious to these changes. Take, for example, Donald Trump at Davos, once again breaking the ranks with global climate consensus. Climate change was not a priority in his speech or in any of his speeches in the past many days or months. In fact, growth and power were his top priorities. Donald Trump criticized green policies, blaming Europe's economic slowdown on its push for renewables. He questioned climate urgency, mocked environmental regulations, and doubled down on fossil fuel as reliable energy. Trump criticized wind energy sharply, calling wind turbines inefficient, claiming they hurt economies that adopt them. Trump's message was clear: economics first, climate later, if at all. Joining us on the show is Professor Soumitra Mukherjee, Director, New Environment Energy Research. Also with us is Abhinash Mohanty, Global Sector Head for Climate Change and Sustainability, IPE Global. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking time out. Professor, I want to come to you first. When global leaders speak at a massive platform like Davos, which is literally, a conglomeration, it is global leaders from all across the world coming together to discuss the future of the globe. And when the leader of the first world, the free world, as US would like to be called, talks about renewables in a disparaging way, what message are we sending out there?
You see, the thing is that whatever the global leaders are saying, it is their opinion, but what scientists say, that should be decisive for the whole world. So, in the sudden snowfall in the Himalaya, as well as other parts of the world, is not uncommon. It has happened earlier, and it is happening at present, and it will happen in future, as per the theory of uniformitarianism. But the thing is that nowadays the new technology has evolved with new technology, new environment and energy research. We have inferred that it is possible to do the cosmic ray speciation across the whole world, including India. See that if you're doing the cosmic ray speciation, and it has been inferred that the galactic cosmic rays, when it is rising abruptly, then it is inviting sudden snowfall, and as well as the snowfall which is unprecedented also. And that is directly proportional to the galactic cosmic ray. So this galactic cosmic ray and cosmic ray from the sun, both the things needed to be studied at an very fast pace. The technology is available. Only the government of India has to give a green signal to practice and to include it into their program.
All right, Avinash Mohanty, one of my concerns with this entire debate, of course, is the most powerful countries in the world. And when their leader talks about renewables, talks about climate change being a hoax, wind turbines being useless, that means that there's not enough money going to go where the mouth is.
Good evening, Shweta. First of all, greetings and wishes on Netaji Subhash Jayanti Divas. It's a very double conundrum. Science has already shown the facts and numbers, how it is going to impact and to what extent. Let me put down some numbers first. In terms of Himalayan ecosystem, almost 89%, and that's what our study has highlighted from IP Global, that 89% of the districts within the Himalayan ecosystem is kind of is at risk. Now, that's where the Himalayan ecosystem comes down. But and it is, let's not shy away from it that the impact of climate change is a distant affair. It's a lived reality, and everybody is living it. We all are facing it. Somewhere it is floods, and somewhere it is heat waves. Somewhere it is kind of this glacier melt happening at a faster rate. So enough of evidence is there. At the same time, what has happened is you're absolutely bang on when you stated that climate change has taken a sheer backseat. It's because the whole gamut of geopolitics have now shifted into the power tussle between the regions, and that's where the whole work that was being done, uh, ranging from the Paris Agreement to the commitments that were made, are now taking a back seat. And yes, you need economic development, and India is a classic example of how balancing between the climate targets and balancing with the economic growth have kind of been joined together. But at the same time, what is happening is we are very prudent in our action, but the scale at which the change is happening and the rate of change of those happenings are not pacing up with the kind of climate proofing of lives, livelihood, and infrastructures. That's where the real issue is. So we need to now focus more and more in terms of Atmanirbharta, in terms of climate proofing in three ways. One is at a system level where our policies and actions as a country, India has been very prudent on that part. Whether it is renewable targets, whether it is climate proofing of our infrastructures, the India-led Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure is already there, which is trying to bring in all of those conglomerate of countries. That system level innovation that has already happened. But what is missing currently is technology. And what, Shweta, you rightly highlighted about the finance part, yes, there is lesser money. There is, in fact, just a drop when the ocean load of money is required. And that's where you need to have a blending structure of financing the climate actions. And those climate actions need to be pulled in more from, of course, the international financings, but also within the domestic funding and the regional funding. And that's where the actions have to come in. We
Absolutely.
need to wait for the global, not to support the global south agenda, because global south is getting impacted more and more, and the lived reality of climate change is impacting at a faster rate than being believed.
Absolutely. Professor Mukherjee,
Yes,
I think it goes without saying that climate change is real, it's happening, and it doesn't
yes,
just affect people who live in high altitude, it affects every person living in this globe.
definitely.
But there is an argument that the first world is making today, and that is that there is a consistent economic burden of of carrying out on path of renewable energy, that we will not be able to generate enough energy, and Europe doesn't generate enough energy because they're moving fast towards renewable. Is there even a merit in that argument?
You see that we, at present, India is well equipped with different facets of science and technology, and we should stop depending upon the European, American, or other countries. We have sufficient Indian scientific manpower, as well as the technology which is innovative and which is cheaper also, that can be used in India in different aspects, including sudden snowfall, sudden change in the global temperature of Himalayan area, and it has direct implications not only with the scientific achievements, but it has long term implications on our society, our economy, as well as our politics also. Because nowadays our geopolitics is governed by the climate change and science also. Whoever is telling that climate change is a myth, it is not correct. It is a fact.
Right. Abhinash Mohanty, I think that brings us to the question that we, as part of the global south, we're doing our due, especially India is doing its due to whatever extent it can to ensure that we fast move towards our goal for renewable energy by 2030. While we are on track, I have to ask you, what are the biggest hurdles you think India faces at the moment?
Well, the biggest hurdle that we need to, or India as a country is facing rightly, is that the science that we are talking of is at a 30,000 feet. We know what India is vulnerable, what Indian states are vulnerable, but Indian states are different to that of its districts, to that of its villages, to that of its blocks. And that's where hyper-granular risk assessment in understanding what Professor Mitra just highlighted, that what is going to happen, how these climate impacts are going to impact us, to what extent in a very short term time scale, is what is missing. That's what in a scientific term we call it as hypergranular risk assessment, to understand how it is going to be impacted and then taking those prudent actions. I'll again try to narrate it with some numbers. 40%, sorry, 45% of Indian districts are showcasing as swapping. That's what our study found out. And that study states that, what does it mean? That traditional flood prone areas are becoming drought prone, and drought prone areas are becoming flood prone. So you will be getting ready for flood to manage floods better, but you end up managing drought. That's where the hypergranular risk assessment at a short term time scale comes into picture. B, once you know what is going to happen, if you have got high fever, then of course you are going to take down some medicines, and if required, you are going to consult a doctor. And similarly, where and how much extent of impact is going to be, that's where the real action begins. I'll try to link it with some of the actions that Indian states have taken it. Odisha in 1999 super cyclone lost almost 10,000 people, but with prudent science coming into policy making and prudent action, resulted in 2019, when a one level down kind of cyclone hit Odisha. There were single digit casualties which were reported, and these are where the strong powerful narratives have been coming up. Second is energy security is a larger study, because all of these energy that we need is going to push in our economic growth. The whole shift into the AI and machine learning is needs, these data centers need a kind of gallon of energy, and those energies are going to come down not just from fossil fuels. We are not going to meet those requirements. In fact, we are going to disrupt our climate more and more. So the alternative renewable energy, whether in form of wind, nuclear, blending kind of fuels, and more importantly solar, are going to play a very pivotal role. Let's, however, how the global leaders position themselves is a test of time. And let's not go by what US does, because US has already pulled itself out from 19 UN agencies, including UNFCCC. So
Right.
let's not debate about how US is going to position itself. US for sure is not going to do it. But yes, Europe and global south are going to be the powerhouses of exchange, and this current economic trade deal which has been done between European Union and India is going to be very pivotal, because energy security and more importantly geopolitical stability, where this climate change is been brought into focus is going to be very, very important, because
Absolutely.
that's where the real zinc lies and the real bug starts and stops.
Oh, absolutely. Before I let you both go, coming back to you, Professor Mukherjee, you know, as Avinash already pointed out, if India has to grow and realize its ambition, be it in AI, GCCs, I mean, what future holds for India in terms of its economic prowess? We need to
Exactly.
find sources of energy which are sustainable going forward. You know, so
Definitely.
I have to ask you then in that context, do you think India is on its course right now, or do we need to accelerate you know, our current policy towards renewables? That's number one. Number two, do you believe that while the global south remains vulnerable, including India remains vulnerable to climate change, the decision making actually rests you know, with the first world? Or do you think the decision to adapt quickly is also, you know, in our own powers right now? So do we have the decision now to accelerate at a pace that we want for a better
we,
future?
we, we, we need to accelerate and take our decision. First of all, regarding climate change, we need to develop. We already have the technology. We need to immediately start developing our early warning system, number one. And second, our mineral exploration. That we have sufficient strategic minerals which are of importance, which we are importing, and which is already available in our country. That we need to explore, and we need to rely our Indian technology, because Indian technology is cheaper. At the same time, it is a long-lasting technology. And if we are doing anything, including uh, the river management, including the energy management, so our Indian indigenous technology is available, and the experts are also available, and that is at a much cheaper rate, 100 times cheaper rate than America or Europe. So we need to rely our scientists, and at the same time, we at the utmost importance is that we need to develop our early warning system, because our disaster management is taking a big chunk of money. So we need to set up a early warning system in our country in all aspects, and that will save lots of money, and
Absolutely.
that money can be used for the development of the poor. So in this way, India can be self-dependent. We should stop depending upon any foreign country. India
Absolutely.
is then only India will evolve as a global leader.
Absolutely. You know, couldn't agree more on that. Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking
Thank you.
time out, for joining us on the show today. I think the message is clear. Global warming is no longer knocking at the doors. It's here, and India needs to take decisions and actions for itself. We cannot look at, you know, the Western countries, the first world countries, to guide the world anymore. Perhaps it's time now for the global south to pave the way. Thank you very much for taking time out on that story.